Welcome this All Saints Day. Tēnā koutou te whānau o Auckland Unitarians. Tēnā koutou nā manahiri. No mai, haere mai. Haere mai ki tēnei whare karakia a te atua tēnā tēnā koutou tēnā tātou katoa. Hey, we're getting that. Welcome, all you saints. Yes, I know you are Unitarians, but yes, you are saints. All of you. For it is not by perfection that we are sainted, rather, it is by our actions. It is not by perfection that we are sainted, rather, it is by our presence. It is not by perfection that we are sainted, rather, it's by our giving. It is not by perfection that we are sainted, rather, it is by our living. It is not by our perfection that we are sainted, rather, it is by our gathering. Together in love, with love, to become a nurturing, welcoming, healing, and faithful worshiping community. Welcome, all you saints. As we kindle this flame, we honor and remember those who have passed into the mystery. Their brightness lives on in our vision. Their courage lives on in our commitments. And their love continues to bless the world through it. Please join me in the covenant of our congregation in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of the Church. The truth is the sacrament, and service is the prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony, thus to be covenant with each other and with God. Now please stand if able to sing Spirit of Life. Okay, we're going to learn a new song. The reading today is actually more music, and you'll find the words in your order of service to follow along, but clearly maybe it's because of what's happening on November 3rd in America. Thoughts of Civil War keep coming to mind. So this is a picture or a song about the Civil War. It might strike you as odd that I open these musings with a lamentation on what most of Christendom celebrates today as All Saints' Day. Faded Coat of Blue was a folk song written by J.H. McNaughton following Gettysburg, the bloodiest battle of the American Civil War. I do so because it is about remembering. Ultimately, All Saints, All Souls, Samhain, Dia de la Muerte, the Buddhist celebration of Obon in Japan, Chuseok in Korea, Gai Jatra in Nepal, Pichum Ben in Cambodia, and my favorite, Hungry Ghost Month, celebrated by Taoists and Buddhists, all center on remembering the dead. Antonio Porcia, an Italian expat poet living in Argentina, once noted, One lives in the hope of becoming a memory. One lives in the hope of becoming a memory. I know that is my hope. I think all of us hope to leave a mark in this life that might be remembered, but we live in a time when a virus can reduce our lives to a statistic. By today, 1.2 million people are projected to have died of COVID, a number that is generally accepted to be grossly underreported. The sheer number washes away the human stories that the deaths represent. We just can't take them all in, much more remember them all. Some may achieve their hope to be a memory. How many others will reside in a nameless grave, unmourned and unremembered? These thoughts led me to Walt Whitman, the quintessential American poet, famous for his collection, Leaves of Grass. The American Civil War deeply affected him. You never forget a pile of amputated limbs, or at least Walt Whitman never did. The grisly sign of war was one of the first sights that greeted Whitman in 1862 when he went to the Civil War battlefield at Fredericksburg to look for his wounded brother George. As he later recounted it, he saw a heap of amputated feet, legs, arms, hands, etc. A pile so large he described it as a full load for a one-horse cart. For Whitman, this heap of limbs became a representative image of the Civil War, which he imagined as unnaturally cutting off states from the nation. Indeed, the fragmented republic and its piecemeal human bodies weighed heavily upon Whitman, who carried with him the memories of countless amputations and death he had seen while volunteering in military hospitals. In his writings from during and after the Civil War, Whitman recalls the experiences of wounded and dying soldiers in order to restore their dignity and individuality. The massive scale and chaotic nature of the war made accurate record keeping next to impossible. Countless men suffered and died anonymously, hastily carved up in field hospitals or tumbled into mass graves near the site of the battle. By imaginatively recalling the individual experiences of the soldiers in his writings, Whitman could symbolically speak for the many sufferings that would otherwise remain forgotten and untold. Whitman particularly felt the urgent need to recall the soldiers who suffered and died in the military hospitals, which he called the untold and unwritten history of war. Some of the men killed on the battlefield might be remembered in military histories, but the men who died in hospitals from dysentery, infection, and fatal but long lingering wounds might forever remain anonymous. In a letter to his mother written in 1864, Whitman describes firsthand a heartbreaking example of this kind of personal erasure. While volunteering at the local hospital, he had witnessed the death of a newly arrived soldier. He writes, "They took him to the ward, and the doctor came immediately, but it was all of no use. The worst of it is that he is entirely unknown. There was nothing on his clothes or anyone with him to identify him. And he is altogether unknown. Mother, it is enough to rack one's heart, such things. Very likely his folks will never know in the world what has become of him. Poor, poor child, for he appeared as though he could be but 18. Apart from a doctor's brief medical notes, if indeed there were any, Whitman's letter may very well be the only record in the existence of the passing of that young man. Whitman reacts against this in his poetry by moving to memorialize and recall his readers the countless forgotten soldiers such as this one. He does this by creating an imaginary personal encounter with them. In his poem, The Wound Dresser, Whitman describes just such an unknown recognition that some of the lost soldiers never had. One turns to me, his appealing eyes. Poor boy, I never knew you. Yet I think I could not refuse this moment to die for you, if that would save you. In flashes like these, Whitman's verse struggles to leave a record, to recall the individual dignity and suffering of men in the war, and to link a face and a person, symbolically at least, with their unchronicled stories. For Whitman, it was about remembering the dismembered, with the intention of healing and restoring not just the nameless soldier, but the country. It is why Arlington Cemetery overlooks the U.S. Capitol, where boys in faded blue and faded gray coats lie together, and where the tomb of the unknown soldier is honored 24 hours a day, every day, with great respect. It was not an accident that Whitman entitled his memoirs of the war Memoranda, which means things to be remembered. It was not an accident. I have lost count after nearly 40 years of ministry of all those for whom I had the privilege to preside at the celebration of their life before returning their remains to Mother Earth. During that time of loss and celebration, many of the bereaved have described the loss of a spouse, parent, child, or close friend as feeling like they'd lost a limb. Amputees describe that loss as a ghost limb. It is not there, yet it is. Our rituals around death are about remembering, maintaining the connection between the deceased and those who love and cherish their memories of them. I've learned there are important reasons to do so. To acknowledge the reality of death. It is a reality we fear, deny, and rarely welcome, while seeking the courage to face it. To acknowledge the emotions associated with the death. We must claim our grief if it is to heal. Healing from our loss does not wipe away our memories. To acknowledge that the relationship with the person who has died has shifted from physical presence to memory, to do so allows for celebration of the gift they were to us. To acknowledge changes in personal self-identity, those we are connected to define who we are. Accepting redefinition is difficult, but necessary if we are not going to be stuck in the past. To ponder and search for new meaning in life, honoring the memory often points to new possibilities for our lives. To receive the loving support of remaining family and friends. Remembrance is a community event, connecting the deceased to the web of life of which we are all a part. Sadness is the loss of a loved one, may never entirely go away. but remembrance lives on. The desire to be remembered lives within our genetic makeup. It is the age-old reason people carve their initials in trees, place their hands in cement, and chalk their names on rocks. They want to leave their mark. They want to be remembered. But for the living, the real marks the dead leave are the ones they left on us. A hug, a smile, a timely word of advice. We want to remember those we've loved and lost, not only for them, but also, as importantly, for ourselves, to mend, to heal, to live, and never to forget. To that end, I offer you this All Saints' Day poem by Patrick Cunningham entitled Remembrance. We talk openly of life, of the joyful times we had, and the joyful times we will have together. Death gives no joy. It has no voice. We have muted it because there are no more times to have together. While the remembrance of death is painful, the remembrance of those who lived, those we loved, is joyous. They have left footprints implanted in our minds, in our hearts, and in the very essence of our being that shall remain forever. Death is sad. Remembrance is not. So let us remember their lives forever. Amen. Please join me in the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts. For my closing words, they once dwelled among us, the people of memory. They who knew us, they who taught us, they who heard us, they who loved us. They touch our lives time and again, through their presence and their absence, through familiar scents and favorite songs, through old stories and renewed sorrow. As the earth turns and trees bud, we reach back to renew the bonds between us. With hearts and hands open, we hold on to love ever stronger than death. We reach back in gratitude and understanding. Without our time together, the pain and the joy, we would never be who we are today. we would have little to pass on ourselves without fear, with thanksgiving, and with hope for all that awaits. We remember those who have gone before. We honor the circle of life and death and our place within this sacred thread.